My name is Dr. Priscilla Settee, and I'm a professor at the University of Saskatchewan in the Department of Native Studies.
And my name is Sheelah McLean, and I am a mom and a teacher and one of the founders of Idle No More.
It's coming out of a sense of hope, and it's been a long time coming, at least in my history. Having been a teacher for many years, it's refreshing to see people who often have been disenfranchised, excited, joyful. It's very optimistic.
And as one of the allies to the movement, I'm very excited about what I'm seeing with the movement in terms of the support we're getting for indigenous sovereignty, rebuilding that nation-to-nation relationship that is the foundation of this country, and also thinking about protecting our water and land for future generations and really rethinking what it means to build sustainable, healthy communities.
Yes, there's been some groundwork done over the years with some of the various groups like unions, churches. So we've been watching it develop over the decades, but something sparked it. Something just gave people hope like I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe a sense of justice, mobilization. And it's so hopeful.
And I think there is a spiritual element to this movement that gives it a heart and a foundation that other movements have struggled to reach. And so when we look at our humanity and how we are working towards solidarity, how we're building community through the flash mob round dances, and how we're building community through the rallies and the teach-ins, and really the heart is also education and building consciousness in all Canadians about inequality and injustice and the environment. These are very human issues, and this is a human story, and I think it's resonating with people for that reason.
I think we are looking at not only ways to improve, but also what's wrong. Why can a rich country like Canada afford to have so much poverty among the First Nations, the founding nation of this country?
Well, I think it is speaking to democracy in Canada, because a lot of Canadians feel that once they vote, they don't have to worry about democracy again for another 4 years. And the truth is that being on the street and being in the community, democracy becomes something that is activated in our lives through a movement like Idle No More, where we're discussing it and making decisions and pressuring our representatives to actually represent their communities, which is what they're paid to do.
Mr. Harper's agenda is really one that flies in the face of traditional Indigenous values. And it's not good. It's not about saving the integrity of the environment for the future. It's about unbridled so-called development that goes at any social cost, environmental cost. It's about creating more millionaires and more poverty, and creating huger wedges between the disenfranchised, the poor, and the very wealthy. And that concerns me, because we've already seen the first few years of that, and it's not good.
And his economic plan is based on resource extraction, and it's clear that this government sees Canada as a resource extraction state. These are non-renewable resources. It's a very short-term plan. And when we look at the history of this type of plan, we can see that what it does is it benefits big corporations, it benefits their shareholders, and it leaves communities with very little except for poisoned water and land.
Well, I say to my students that I want to see a future that will honor my grandchildren. And it's really, in some respects, in the hands of those young people. So they need to wake up and decide, are they going to build a society on justice and fairness and preserve the environment? Or are they going to go on the same train wreck that we're on? And leaving very little in terms of resources for the future. And, they understand that. They get that. They have a sense of justice in that regard.
And I'd like to see a Canada that all of us can be proud of, that's working in solidarity and honoring Indigenous sovereignty and actually rebuilding that nation-to-nation relationship that was the foundation of this country. And that we start to work towards developing communities that have healthy food and that have access to resources and that have healthy land and that have healthy drinking water. These are things that all Canadians should be receiving, and that's not what's happening with the current attacks. And these have to be seen in a context of ongoing colonial attacks that have been happening for centuries in this country.
And I always say that, the treatment of the environment in this country is equivalent to the treatment of Indigenous women, where we have over 600 missing and murdered Aboriginal women. And, it's a metaphor, but it really describes clearly what policies and practices are doing to the most vulnerable.
We're working with organizers across this country and globally now, and all of the people that have contacted us to organize have been women. And we have many men that are asking how they can support that leadership of the women. And there are elders now and clan mothers contacting us and telling us that Indigenous women have to take their rightful place and their sovereignty over the land and water.
From where I sit and where I stand, youth are the center of my work, and they want to be hopeful. They want solutions, and I think education is key. And they rise to the occasion. And it's very simple. You have a discussion about how do you see your world unfolding, and they have solutions. They know.
I think a lot of people think that the youth were initially engaged because they're surrounded by social media, and social media has been used definitely to spread I don't know more. But I think I agree that there's much more to it than that, and I think that the youth have very much become some of the leaders in I don't know more in their work organizing and in their work rallying. And I think we have to remember that they're targeted very heavily by mainstream media into consumerism and corporatism, and these are empty promises that often leave them feeling like there's not a lot of hope for the future. And what this offers them is something much more humane, which is to work towards community and work towards relationships, to work towards social justice, and of course to protect our land and water.
And I think the thing that speaks to our youth in particular is the use of traditional songs and drums, and to see them is just to experience an epiphany, in my view. To see them so proud, and it's an amazing moment. And the nature of this traditional demonstration of love and solidarity is acceptance. Anybody's welcome into the circle, and so everybody comes. There's no threat. There's no feeling of anxiety or discomfort. People are just welcomed into our circle. And that's how it always was. And that's how it needs to continue.
I think some people forget that it's really only 2 months old. And really, the global movement has been approximately a month since our National Day on December 10th, and people really started to learn more about it. And I do think there's a momentum, and I do think that people are more excited than ever, and we are getting so many offers of support, of solidarity, of people asking how they can continue to contribute. And so I think in the future that what's going to happen is we're going to see further alliances, and we're going to see allies supporting the movement as the movement continues to grow.
I have a message for Canadians that, First Nations and Métis people have really put this on the national agenda. And now it's time to begin questioning how we can do collectively things differently. It's about citizen engagement. It's about demanding and designing the kind of future that we want, not necessarily what corporations want.
And I would just invite everyone to bring their own gifts to Idle No More and to be able to live it every day in any way that they want to. We have artists, and we have singers, and we have teachers, and we have lawyers, and we have politicians, and we have so many different groups that are saying, how can I be involved? And everyone can be involved, and they can be involved and bring, their own gifts and their own skills and their own strengths to the movement, and make it as strong as it needs to be able to shift and change the consciousness of Canadians and what we want for our future.